Good afternoon, and very good afternoon. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Biography. Today's topic is the same old boring full frame versus crop sensor, blah 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 blah. Internet is full, especially the YouTube thing, is full with videos. Tons of people talk about crop sensors and more tons of people are talk about the advantages of full frame and all that. I just saw actually this video is the result of a video which I saw a couple of days ago, and the video was very good production actually, lots of animations, very good music, very dynamic scene cutting, and it's like high level production. The guy was a filmmaker, so he made a video about the full frame versus crop sensor and the advantages of full frame. And he keep mentioning that full frame is better because the sensor size is big, and that's where everything collapsed. Like for me, that high level production video means literally zero. When he said that uh, the sensor size, the bigger the sensor size is good for low light. Wrong. This video I'm making just to address that point, that bigger sensor size has nothing to do with better low light. Whoever thinks that bigger sensor result in better dynamic range, better high ISO value, better overall image quality and blah blah blah, that's where you are, or whoever thinks that is totally wrong. Let me clear with you why I'm saying this. See, I believe I already made tons of videos about full frame advantage or crop sensor advantage, or if I found these videos on my YouTube channel, I probably gonna link the card over there. If not, forgive me for that. Anyways, so why I'm saying this, that bigger sensor size is has nothing to do with better low light performance and better dynamic range, high ISO value. If you are watching my videos on this channel, recently I made a video like a couple of months ago or something like that. Recently in 2023, I made a video about the advantages or the magic of the SNR firmware, which I'm also going to link the card over there. In that video, I particularly mentioned why the SNR firmware or the software inside the camera, which basically cooks your raw file, it's so damn important. Like I am making this video with my Nikon Z30, and Z30 SNR firmware is extremely good. It's beyond my expectation. Like say this camera Z30 contains the SNR firmware, which is so damn good at such a cheap price that I myself stunned. Like how come Nikon they are giving us such a great SNR firmware at this much low price? The last time I checked, it was D850, who stunned me. Such a great image quality with still one of the best dynamic range you can ever have at lower ISO values, regardless. It's a DSLR or mirrorless. D850 still shines. Why? Because of the SNR firmware. There are many 45 megapixel cameras, Z9, Z8, Z7 II, Z7, then D850. D850 still shines. I'm not advocating the advantages of the DSLR, or I'm not advocating the DSLR. I'm talking about overall image quality. SNR firmware is so damn important. So the SNR firmware plays so much critical role in cleaning up your raw files or shooting at high ISO values, because SNR firmware basically gives you the final raw file after cooking it. So the better the SNR, the better the low light performance, the better the dynamic range, regardless of the sensor size. That's one thing. That's one thing. Second thing, pixel size. Bigger the pixel size means lower the megapixel, because you have a limited sensor area. In that limited sensor area, you are having number of pixels you are trying to cramp in. So the more pixels you are to cramp in, it means that in that limited size, the pixel size is going to be small because you are pushing too many pixels inside. But if you are having less pixels in that particular area, it means that the pixel size is big. And when the pixel is big, it captures good amount of light. When it captures good amount of light, it means that better low light performance, better dynamic range in post processing you can get. For example, Nikon D700, Nikon D3, D3S, Sony A7S, Sony A7S2, Sony A7S3, and recently some FX something or EV10 something camera from Sony, 12 megapixel. Anything around 12 megapixel, very good for low light, very good, dynamic range in most of the time. Most of the time, I'm saying most of the time. So, SNR firmware, bigger pixel size, these are the two key factors which defines better low light performance, better high edge, better high ISO value, better dynamic range, and stuff like that. But when you start pushing too many pixels in the same area, in the same amount of full frame area, you are having small pixel size. Small pixel size means pixels are not enough, so small that they are not able to gather enough light. When they are not able to gather enough light, it means that at a given shutter speed, 12 megapixel and 60 megapixel, like 12 megapixel the pixel size is this big, and 60 megapixel the pixel size is so small. At a given shutter speed, the amount of light which this big pixel can capture is more than a small pixel. So it means that the lower megapixel low light performance is always better, regardless of the sensor area, because the pixel size in that same full frame is so small. So whoever tells you that bigger sensor size is better for low light, never believe on that. Never believe on that. It always look for the pixels. What is the pixel size? What is the pixel size? Starting with 8.4 micron meter, which is equivalent to 12 megapixel. Alright. Then look for the total amount of pixels per unit area. Alright, for example, 60 megapixel has 3.9, 3.8 or something micron meter. 3.8, 3.7 something micron meter, I don't know. I will look into that and I'll write it over here. So 60 megapixels in the same full frame area, you have, let's say if I'm drawing that full frame area, alright, and I just cut into half, and in that half area, half of the pixels I'm putting 12 megapixel size pixels, and half of the area of the frame I'm pushing 60 megapixel size pixels. Okay, so 8.4 micron meter will fill half the space, and 3.9 or 3.8, whatever the pixel size, will be filling half of the space. So when you throw the light on those pixels, so imagine how much light each pixel get. Of course, 12 megapixel will capture more light. The total amount of good quality of light will be captured by 12 megapixel area because of the bigger pixel size, right? So that's the native advantage It has nothing to do with the pixel size of the sensor, because in the same sensor size, you are having less megapixel and you are having more megapixel. Alright, so more megapixel means small pixel size, which means less amount of light they're going to capture in a given unit of time, which means very bad low light performance. And in the same shutter speed, if you are exposing the bigger pixel size like small megapixel camera, you are having good low light performance. So if you need good low light performance, you always have to look for a camera with less megapixels. Why Canon 1DX 20 megapixel? Why Nikon D5, D6 20 megapixel? D4, D4S was 16 megapixels. D3, D3S was 12 megapixel. Why? Because those cameras are built for low light performance. That's why their megapixel was always less. Always. Because they are meant to shoot in extreme low light. Now let's talk about what we need. That I just mentioned about 2 points. One is the SNR firmware, and the second is pixel size. Okay. Now, why you need crop sensor cameras? People think that we need full frame cameras because number of pixels will be more because of 60 megapixel and all that, 50 megapixel or 45 megapixel and all that. Full frame will get more megapixel. That's where we need full frame. You are again wrong if you think that. Why? Let me tell you. If you want to calculate how much megapixel you can get, and when you're going to switch your full frame camera into crop mode, how much the pixels you are going to get. There is a very basic formula for that. I'm going to write it somewhere over here. If you are a Sony and Nikon shooter, their crop factor is 1.5, so 1.5 multiplied by 1.5 is equal to 2.25. So that, just remember that factor. If you are a Canon shooter, the crop sensor is the crop factor is 1.6, so 1.6 multiplied by 1.6 is equal to 2.56, something like that. Just remember 2.25, 2.56. Okay, done. Okay. So now imagine you are Sony shooter or Nikon shooter. Okay, you are having your full frame cameras. How much megapixels you are going to get in crop mode? Because you guys think that we are going for high megapixel full frame cameras because they are full frame, which means they are better for low light, which I already explained. Okay, and you can crop because there are too many megapixels. You can crop in, you will get more details, especially shooting sports action wildlife. Okay, that's what you think. Now let me explain why. Now, why you think that why the crop sensor cameras are really good for shooting sports action wildlife? If you want to calculate how much megapixel your full frame cameras can get in crop mode, if you are Sony and Nikon shooter, just just divide your total number of megapixels by 2.25. If you are Nikon and Sony shooter, like Sony 61 megapixel something, divide 2.25, you will get around 26-27 megapixels. That's which is equivalent to the any crop sensor camera you can get, like Fujifilm X-T3, X-T4, X-T5, they are all 26 megapixels. So it means that if you are shooting with Sony full frame 61 megapixel camera like Sony A7R4, Sony A7R5, or you are shooting with Fujifilm X-T2, X-T3, you are going to get same detail when you zoom to 100%. Shooting from the same distance, shooting the same subject, using the same focal length. Yep. Because 61 megapixel is giving you 26, 27 megapixel in the crop mode. It means which is equivalent, which so Fujifilm already providing you. So it means that the details that you are going to get in a crop sensor is equivalent to full frame. That's one example. Second example, okay, Nikon D850. If you are sure Z7, Z7 II, Z8, Z9, all these 45 megapixel cameras, when you are shooting in crop mode, they are giving you 20 point something megapixel, 20.5 megapixel, which is exactly the megapixels you are getting in your D500, Z50, Z30, ZFC, and D7500. 5 cameras in crop sensor, which is exactly giving you the same number of megapixel which you're shooting with these 5 full frame cameras. D850, DZ7, Z7 II, Z9, Z8 and Z9. So all these full frame 5 cameras, which is 45.7 megapixels, if you're shooting using them in crop mode, you are going to get the same amount of megapixels which you are getting from D500, D7500, Z30, Z50, ZFC. So the amount of details when you zoom, take the shot from these full frame cameras and take the shot from these crop sensor cameras, like 5 from there, 5 from there, and you use the same focal length, you shoot the same distance from the same subject, and you zoom in 100%, you'll get exactly the same details. Exactly the same details. So where is the advantage of full frame? The only advantage to get full frame is that extra space that you can get, which you can crop based on your composition, because you may not find enough room in the crop sensor. Animal was somewhere over there when you able to click. If you are shooting with these crop sensor cameras and somehow the bird quickly fly away, and you capture the bird somewhere in that part of the frame using the crop sensor camera, then you only think, oh, I wish I could have more full frame so I could extra space and can get the extra sky. That's the only advantage that you can get with these high megapixel camera. Besides landscape, portrait, anything, there is no advantage when it comes to detail, because crop sensor cameras, full frame cameras, now in today's world, in 2023 onwards, actually from 2022 onwards, in 2024, they are all the same, literally the same. And another reason that you are being pushed by the camera companies to move to full frame, because they are not making enough crop sensor lenses for their mirrorless or DSLR lineup. They're purposely not making these lenses. So you are always being pushed to go for full frame. You need 85 1.2, you need 50 1.2, you need 35 1.2, you need 100 to 400, you need 200 to 500, 180 to 600, 200 to 600. You need those lenses. They are all designed for full frame. That's why you think, oh damn, I have to switch to full frame. Why? Because those are full frame lenses. You are forgetting the fact that if you are using those full frame lenses over the crop body, you will end up having the same detail which you are going to have from these high resolution cameras. Same detail. I'm going to put some slides where I use those full frame lenses using the crop sensor bodies. I purposely used, and I use D500, I use Z30, which is entry level, like $600 camera, which even not having viewfinder, no EVF. I just use the camera back screen, that flippy screen which I'm shooting myself right now. I use that screen to shoot subjects, sunrise, sunsets, moonrise, moonsets. For me, it works. I just need the details which I'm getting from Z30. or from D500, both giving me the same resolution which I can get from D850 or Z7 or Z7 II or Z8 or Z9, because the pixel size is the same in all these 10 cameras. I already made a dedicated video about that too, which I'm going to put on the card. You can see. So, why we need high resolution camera? Why we need? The only thing you there are only two things, which, in my humble opinion, the way I see, those two things are, uh, of course, the extra frame that you can get, which you're not able to get if you're shooting the subject, which you always can, vary by using the different focal length over the crop sensor cameras. You always can use full frame lenses over crop sensor and get extra frame. Go for shorter focal length, so you get extra frame. Yeah, if you are shooting landscape, architecture, ultra wide angle shots, that's where you're probably not going to have enough lenses to cater wide angle area for crop sensor. But still, Tamron are making 1024 f4 lens, I believe, very good for crop sensor. Canon just filed a patent for their RF lineup for the crop sensor. Nikon already have 1224 1024 DX lens to cover your ultra wide angle requirements for the crop sensor lineup. Nikon do have DX lenses 1224 and 1024. There is one from Tokina, very famous lens, 11 to 16 2.8, very famous lens, Mark 1, Mark 2. Both are great lenses. The Tokina, they literally made their two lenses are very famous from Tokina. That 11 to 16 2.8 DX crop sensor and their 100mm 2.8 macro, but that's better for some other discussion. So yeah, just choices are there for cross sensor, but nobody likes to go for, because the marketing for the full frame is so much that you all get influenced by it, all of them. So you think, okay, no, we have to move to full frame, high resolution camera. There is no advantage when it comes to shooting sports, action, wildlife. You need high resolution camera which you can easily get in crop mode. Why the D500 is still freaking amazing. D500 is a crop sensor. It's a beast of the machine. That camera is a legendary camera. 10 frames per second, of course, it's 10 frames. It's not electronic 20 frames or something, but in future we are going to have the replacement of D500 in a mirrorless form very soon. Something like Z50, no, Z90, yeah. Z90 probably with a stack sensor which shoot 20-30 frames per second, 120 frames per second, something like that. We're going to have very soon, as per rumors. Okay, so yeah, we are going to have the replacement of D500. But if you really need more frames per second, you can get D5, D6, but those are low megapixel camera. The only requirement that you can get high resolution camera with high frames per second, those are only two cameras, Z8 and Z9. Of course, Sony A7R5 or Sony A7R4 that can do, but they are slow machine. The only from Sony is A1, okay. From Canon is your R5, amazing camera. So high resolution camera are there because you are being, all of you being so much get used to high resolution camera because of croppability. You can crop out of it, but you can get the same amount of detail in crop sensor camera. All you have to do is to just better frame your subject. That's it. Choose the right focal length and just frame it better. You will get the same result from equal to almost high resolution cameras, full frame. Number of megapixels are the same. The number of megapixels per unit area literally are the same. I just proved to you. So if you want to calculate how many megapixel you can get in a crop mode of your any desired full frame camera, if you're Nikon and Canon, just divide those higher megapixel cam numbers with 2.25. Okay. If you are shooting with Canon, just divide those full frame megapixel number with 2.56. You will get equal amount of crop sensor numbers, and then you can buy those crop sensor cameras based on that calculation. So easy, so easy. You will end up saving a lot of money by buying those crop sensor cameras. By the way, there is another catch which our camera companies pushing you to move to full frame instead of crop. Now, there are some people who are smart enough to invest on those crop sensor cameras because they calculated, okay, we are having enough megapixels which is equal to full frame. Let's go for this crop sensor camera. That's why most of them, National Geographic and those wildlife photographers, they prefer to have crop sensor cameras because the amount of detail they get the same. The another catch which they don't want you to buy for crop sensor camera and move to full frame camera. Their companies are not putting the best SNR firmware in the crop bodies. They always try to put the best SNR firmware in the full frame. This is another smart move by the camera companies. Why you need a better SNR firmware in the crop sensor cameras? Because when it comes to video, you will always find good SNR firmware like Z30, very excellent SNR firmware in it. In my opinion, it's better than Z50 or even the ZFC. In my opinion, the way I used all these cameras, I found the Z30 SNR firmware is better than Z50 and ZFC, even better than D500 when it comes to dynamic range, high ISO performance. Z30 SNR firmware is better than D500 and is less than half the price of D500. But why D500 is still better than Z30? Even Z30 is 11 frames per second, D500 is 10 frames per second. Same megapixel. Z30 is better SNR firmware. D500 not so good SNR firmware. But why D500 still got upper hand over Z30? Despite Z30 is having best SNR firmware, more frames per second, better for video, better for video tracking and stuff. Why D500 still got upper hand over Z30? The answer is robust build, pro build quality, and deep buffer. D500 buffer is up to 200 frames. Z30 buffer is not much. It's not at all. D500 got 2 card slots, so it means that redundancy is there. XQD and SD. Z30 single card slot. Story finish. So see, there's always a trade-off. It's risky for me to shoot sports action wildlife using Z30. But I can easily rely on D500 and shoot and get the exact same details from which I can get from any Z9 or Z8, considering I'm doing the right autofocus technique. Because Z9 and Z8, those machines are like way up there. They made our life so easy with their superior autofocus system. I'm just talking about in general. Okay, so that's what I think. The camera companies, they are pushing you to move to full frame instead of investing in too much crop sensor. Why? Because of not making the lenses, not giving the best SNR firmware, and not making a camera which doesn't have those deep buffer and build quality, which you always get in full frame. So that's why we need machines like D500 upgrade. most of us are looking for the crop sensor cameras with pro build quality, like APS-C cameras, crop sensor cameras with pro build quality for shooting sports action wildlife. Canon do have 7D Mark II, 7D, which is equivalent to T500, but T500 have more features and better image quality than 7D Mark II. 7D Mark II have the exact same megapixel, which is equal to 5DS. You can multiply the 7D Mark II megapixels by 2.56 to get full frame equivalent. So if you want to calculate how much megapixel from the crop sensor you can get the same amount of detail in full frame, just multiply the crop sensor megapixels with those two factors, 2.25 and 2.56, to get full frame equivalent of megapixel. Okay, that's it. If you want to move from full frame to crop sensor, you have to divide. But you want to move from crop sensor to full frame, just multiply. So the nutshell of the idea, in nutshell of this video is never rely on full frame, the size of the sensor. Size of the sensor has nothing to do with full frame. For better low light performance, better dynamic range. Pixel size, SNR firmware, these are the two key factors to define the low light performance, better dynamic range, high ISO performance, like all that, better image quality. I have extremely great images from Z30. It works for me because Z30 got the best SNR firmware, superior image quality. I shot one image yesterday morning from D200, and that is the image. D200 is literally pro build quality camera body, okay, and that's right over there, I can see, and it got CCD sensor, only 10.2 megapixel, but it got CCD sensor. But by the way, all 24 megapixel full frame cameras, if you're switching divided by 2.25 in Sony and Nikon mode, they'll give you 10.5 megapixel. So like D200, it's exactly giving me 24 megapixel resolution, even though it's 10.2 megapixel sensor. Of course, it's CCD sensor, not CMOS. So CCD is extremely good when it comes to reproduction of colors. Like literally. That's why I bought that D200, because it's CCD sensor. CCD sensor is another level of having the best image quality. Why in space all these cameras are CCD sensors, like in Hubble or James Webb Space Telescope? All these cameras are CMOS, not CMOS, my apologies, CCDs. CCD gives you the right color, right information, like everything is natural. That's why in space, most of the cameras, almost all of the cameras are CCD. Of course, CCD consumes more power compared to CMOS. That's why all the consumer grade cameras are switched to CMOS because to save power instead. So that's why we are having CMOS, but that's matter of some other discussion. I was talking about the superior image quality and all that for D200. You saw the image, right? Okay, I'm going to put it again. So I'm going to wrap up this video. I know I talk a lot of extra stuff in this video, but the core idea is that whoever says to you that full frame is better for low light, wrong. Always calculate the pixel size. Like 12 megapixel gives you 8.4 micron meter, 24 megapixel gives you 6 micron meter, 45 megapixels gives you around 4.2 micron meter. 61 megapixel gives you 3.8 micron meter. So the number of megapixel increases, the size of the pixel decreases. So what's the best value where you can get best of both worlds, like more amount of pixels and best low light performance? What's the sweet spot? That sweet spot, it's 24 megapixel camera. In 24 megapixel, you will get the maximum amount of detail with the maximum amount of low light performance, maximum amount of dynamic range. So because dynamic range, those low light performance, highest value performance increase, the megapixel get decrease. When megapixel get increase, the dynamic range and as look have native advantage at the pixel level, and high ISO performance get decrease. So it's always go like this. So when they meet neck to neck, that is 24 megapixel. That's why you will see 24 megapixel camera from Panasonic S5 and S5, yeah. Okay, S1 also, S1, yeah, S1, S5, and tons of lineup from D600, D610, D750, Z5, Z6, Z6 II. Okay, from Sony, A7, A7 II, A7 III. Okay, even R3 from Canon. All these cameras are 24 megapixel. Think why they are all 24 megapixel. Because that's the best they can offer you. The maximum amount of details with the maximum amount of dynamic range, low light performance. I hope you like this video, and I'll see you guys in future with some new content. Till then, take care. Bye.